G'day, Professor Joseph Drew here. I'm here to talk to you about financial sustainability for rural councils again. This is a pre-recording of my talk to the Country Mayors Association. It's really important that, and this applies to all rural local governments in Australia, and it would be really helpful if this sort of material got in front of our people running the parliamentary inquiries into financial sustainability in New South Wales and Victoria. Don't forget to subscribe and like and all those things too, and help me to help others. Thank you. So, as I mentioned, there's a couple of parliamentary inquiries starting. So it seems like our parliamentarians have realised that we've got a financial sustainability crisis in front of us. But there's a couple of steps they've missed. One problem is that parliamentarians, policymakers, sometimes even scholars fail to adequately define financial sustainability. Now, if you're not going to define the road you want to travel on, I'm sort of wondering how you expect to get to the destination. So here's a definition. It's one of my own, taken from an amalgamation of definitions in the scholarly literature. Financial sustainability is the ability to meet the needs of the current generation of residents without unduly impinging on the capacity of the future generation to meet their own needs. Now, there's two really critical things here. One is about intergenerational equity. Local government differs to our private lives, to the corporate world. In local government, we can actually force someone else to pay for things we've consumed. We can even force people not yet born to pay for things that we've already consumed. That's called implicit debt. So for an example, if we don't maintain our roads, we don't maintain our table drains, someone eventually is going to have to seal it, or probably dig it up and rebuild it at 9 times the cost. And we passed on the burden that rightfully belongs to us, because we consume the road, to a future generation of taxpayers. And that's a really big problem. It means we haven't met our needs at all. We haven't funded our needs at all. And it's going to impinge on our children, our grandchildren's capacity to meet their needs. Now, the other important thing I want you to take notice of here is that we're talking about needs, not wants. Needs must come first before wants. And it's really interesting that when local governments get into financial sustainability issues, that it's the road maintenance and the table drains that is some of the first stuff to be cut, and that can be problematic, can't it? The other interesting thing is that all this comes back to the purpose of government. Have you ever asked yourself, what is the point of local government? Why do we have local government? Well, one answer is to help people to cooperate to become all that they can be. And that answer goes back to Aristotle. And I think it's the best answer. And I think we need to have firmly in our mind, what is the purpose of this financial sustainability? To have local government. Okay, next question. What is the purpose of local government? Really important things to think about. Now, the next thing that comes up when we're talking about financial sustainability is, how do we fix it? Unfortunately, everyone wants a silver bullet solution. They want the one single, more or less painless thing that fixes the problem entirely. It's unlikely to ever happen. Think about the personal budget metaphor. Think about your own finances. If you get yourself in a mess, it's not occurred suddenly. It's been lots of little things that you have or have not done over a long period of time. Why would you think that you can fix it suddenly through one single thing? If it took you lots of little things to get to this position, chances are it's going to take you lots of little things over a long period of time to get out of the position. There is not a silver magic bullet, and it's not amalgamation, and it's not a special rate variation. It's doing all the things, the price signals, long run marginal costs, all the things I talk about in my videos all the time. And it's also about having good, robust, reliable evidence, not tainted by someone's bias, produced and compiled by people that you can trust, where you know who the person was, what their qualifications are, who they were. It's really important. You can only make good decisions if you have good facts to base them on. And that's why I started this YouTube channel. I do it in my own time. It's under my own brand. You can use these videos in any way you want to help your community. And one of the biggest things you can help your community with is with educating them. A lot of these videos are done up to educate your community. Often when I do special rate variations, the councillors and the staff and the community themselves say, you know what was really awesome? We learnt about the real situation our council faces. And people are usually pretty good if you give them good information. So do like a lot of councils do and put these videos up on your website. That's what they're there for. I'm there to help you. Don't forget to subscribe and help me by flicking these on to other people. If we want to improve things, we've all got to work together. Now, the next problem with financial sustainability inquiries is that we don't yet competently measure financial sustainability. So in New South Wales, we've got about 10 ratios, depends how you count them, sometimes 11, that are supposed to paint a picture of financial sustainability. That's what we call extreme synodicy, cool word for Scrabble. Basically, it's taking a part to stand for a whole. So we might talk about putting boots on the ground. We don't actually mean boots, we mean soldiers with their actual people and their weapons and everything else, and aeroplanes and everything else. That's an example of synodicy, and we do that with our financial sustainability metrics. When I measure financial sustainability, it's about 50 metrics, and it's much more sophisticated in maths than simple ratios. Often ratios will lead you astray badly. It's also going to the town and speaking to people and buying stuff from the local shops and driving on your roads and understanding what's below the dirt, the substrate for your roads. It's all those things. It's no simple job to measure financial sustainability. And it's really important that we do measure it importantly if we want to have an inquiry into financial sustainability and come up with efficacious solutions. For instance, we need to make sure that the metrics actually measure what they purport to. So one of the ones during Fit for the Future was the efficiency ratio, which didn't measure efficiency. That's a problem. We need to make sure that the metrics actually make logical sense in terms of formal logic. So we've got an asset maintenance ratio that says you must year after year after year spend more than is required on maintaining assets, and that makes you sustainable. I'm failing to see how that would make you sustainable, spending more than required every year. And we also need to make sure that our metric benchmarks make sense. An example of this is own source ratio. It makes a little bit more sense in America, where it was imported from. It makes very little sense in Australia, where we have a piece of Commonwealth legislation called the Local Government Financial Assistance Act 1995 that says that the more grant money should be going to the poorer communities with larger burdens, which tend to be your rural councils. To hold rural councils and city councils the same benchmark just seems a little bit strange to me. And of course, as I said, we need sufficient metrics. And this is where we've gone wrong in the past, looking at a few metrics. Extreme synodicy is like me picking 7 features of you, describing you to someone and expecting someone to pick you out of a crowd. It's not going to happen. So that's another set of problems we face. And the other thing I want to emphasize here is that we never have to guess. I get a little bit frustrated sometimes. And look, I'm not a polished performer. I know that my YouTube videos are sometimes a little bit too blunt and a little bit too bushy, but that's what I am. I'm just a bushy who happens to be a professor of local government economics here in Australia and a professor, adjunct professor in 3 of the best universities in the world overseas. So don't expect a polished performance, because you'll usually be disappointed. But my point here is it's quite frustrating for scholars to see this, what I sometimes call guess and giggle work, when we know that we can actually measure these things properly. You know, we don't have to use a really sad efficiency ratio that doesn't measure efficiency and uses flawed data. We can actually measure it properly with full whole disposability analysis, which is up there on the screen. You don't have to guess capacity of pay by using average rates and making a comparison, which is completely wrong. We know the rates, the data is skewed, and you know when you have skewed data, averages are meaningless. You know it's skewed within every category of your rate base in your council, and then you compare it to another council where it's all skewed. It's just nonsense. It's absolutely meaningless. You know people don't pay rates out of statistical phenomena, out of averages. They pay it out of incomes. So you don't have to do what you get told to do by the OLG and what most councils are doing. You can actually measure it properly, regression analysis, and actually put in all the incomes accruing to residents in your local government area and all the other local government areas in New South Wales and work out the average response to income, and from there calculate precisely the total tax take that your community can afford to pay if they're exerting an average revenue effort. Debt capacity, same thing. You don't have to use a debt ratio that doesn't have all the liabilities in it, really important liabilities such as staff liabilities, that doesn't factor in capacity to pay, and at the end of the day you pay your debt out of your revenues, which really doesn't measure debt capacity at all. You can actually calculate it correctly using regression analysis. Same with scale during Fit for the Future. I actually did this with DEA. I worked out precisely whether economies of scale existed or not and what the effect of amalgamating councils would be. And I wrote an A-star paper in one of the best journals in America predicting it, and exactly what I said would happen did in fact happen. And it's not because I'm a genius or brilliant or clairvoyant or any of those things. If you do good, robust, rigorous research, you'll have a good basis for making decisions. Tax efficiency, we can work it out precisely. Revenue effort, we can work it out precisely. A fair horizontal fiscal equalisation grant, because that's what the Commonwealth legislation says, as far as practical, should be allocated on the basis of horizontal fiscal equalisation. And I'm telling you now it's not. We can work out precisely what it should be. We can work out precisely the effect of amalgamations and de-amalgamations. We don't have to guess. Now, let me give you some examples about grants, because grants is one of my big bugbear here. General grants, the general fag grants. Here's two examples. One's a city council, Bayside. One's country council, Federation. A country council that was amalgamated, a country council that's bigger than 32 other countries in the world. Okay, so Bayside is getting $4.3 million, one of the most affluent places I know of in the country. Federation is getting $5.5 million. How is that horizontal fiscal equalisation? The definition is that you're supposed to be making up for the difference in capacity to pay and the needs of the community. I very much doubt that the capacity to pay and the needs of people in Bayside are the same as they are in Federation. Road grants. Here's another example. Bayside's getting $4,300 per kilometre for their roads. Federation's getting $1,380 per kilometre for the roads. And Federation doesn't have motorbikes and Suzuki Swifts driving on them. They have B-double trucks and great big agricultural equipment that rips them to shreds. You know, these are serious problems that we can identify and have identified precisely using sophisticated empirical techniques that we should be thinking about redressing if we want more financial sustainable local governments in rural areas. So what worries me is we keep having these inquiries and they keep coming to the same conclusion, and the inquiries are done by the same groups of commercial consultants informing them, and strangely enough the conclusions are the same. So the conclusions and the commercial consultants involved in Fit for the Future were also in the Tasmanian Future of Local Government inquiries, and amalgamation was one of their strong recommendations. Okay, so if we keep doing this, if we keep basing our decision making in a vacuum of facts, without enough ratios, without the sophisticated, precise mathematical tools that are going to give us a good foundation for making good decisions, I don't know why people expect different answers. I don't know why people expect things to improve. Now, I've got a lot of sympathy for Einstein's quote up there. If you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, it doesn't reflect well enough. So what I'm suggesting here is that rural councils need to get together and fund an authoritative piece of work by the best scholars in the world, several professors, and establish the facts once and all about efficiency, about scale, about the effects of amalgamation, about the proper, fair, horizontal fiscal equalisation grant allocation, about revenue effort. And then in the future, we won't have these facts-free discourses and recommendations, the same recommendations we always have that lead to significant suffering in the community. Instead, you'll be able to show these are the actual facts. Now let's start talking about the facts instead of biased agendas written by people we don't know, we don't know their qualifications, we don't know the standard of their work. Let's change what we're doing. Let's start dealing with robust facts that we can trust. And that's my suggestion to country councils. I just want things to be better for people in the bush. I live in the bush. Lots of my friends live in the bush. But it's just a matter of justice. Why should we always get the raw end of the fish? So, look, I hope that was helpful. I look forward to your comments. And please remember to send this video on to others. Thank you very much for your time. Goodbye.